ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणम्। Hare Krishna and welcome back to today's episode of the Mahabharata. The burning question before all of us: what happened to the Pandavas when Duryodhana set in motion his nefarious plan to burn the Pandavas alive in the house of Shellak in Varanavata? Today we will begin with a narration of a pastime related to Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva married Sati, the daughter of Daksha. This Daksha was a son of Lord Brahma and he was one of the Prajapatis. Daksha, being a king, when his daughter Sati chose of her own accord to marry Lord Shiva, he was not very pleased, because according to him, Lord Shiva was not a suitable son-in-law according to his stature. Where was Daksha living in a royal palace in the midst of all luxuries? And where was Lord Shiva? He has no house also. He smears ash all over his body, and he is always living out in the open under some tree, etc. And surrounded all the time by all kinds of ghosts and ghostly living entities. Daksha Maharaj had a very contemptuous outlook towards Lord Shiva. Because of this, he was not on good terms with Lord Shiva. Once Daksha Maharaj was conducting a yajna for the welfare of the whole world, and he had invited all the important personalities from all over the world, including the Devatas, including all the demigods. However, because of his bad relations with Lord Shiva, he did not invite him. Because Lord Shiva is a great devotee of Krishna, he is Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu, he is one of the exalted devotees of Lord Vishnu. He was not very much afflicted or in any way disturbed because his father-in-law had not invited him for a sacrifice wherein all the others had been invited. He was quite happy doing his devotional service to Lord Vishnu. Sati approached the Lord Shiva and she told the Lord Shiva that my father has organized this one yajna, I have heard, I want to go and attend. Lord Shiva told her, you see, already our relation is very bad. If you go there, your father will say something or the other, ulta sida about me. And when you hear that, you will not be able to tolerate that, you will feel very hurt. So why you want to get into all these things? You are happy here, be here. Your father is doing something, let him do, no problem. Why we have to go and interfere? Anyway, he has not invited us also, so why you have to go? Then Sati said, no, my father, even if he doesn't invite, I have to go. Like that, she was very stubborn. And how women are, they are a little emotional, and so she started crying and she threw a tantrum. Then Lord Shiva said, okay, I don't want to unnecessarily force you into something. If you are so keen on going, you go. I will not come, because I don't want to again come in front of Daksha Maharaj and create a scene and all that. So you go and come, no problem. Sati went to the yajna, and when she went to the yajna, her mother, her sisters, they all came forward, hugged her, embraced her, and took her into the palace, and they treated her very well. Then when she came in front of Daksha Maharaj, on the other hand, Daksha Maharaj was, even though Sati was his own daughter, he neglected her. He neglected her. He did not even talk to her. And then Sati saw how in the fire sacrifice there is a portion of the fire sacrifice was kept aside for all the devatas. Something for Lord Shiva, for Lord Brahma, something for Lord Indra, something for some other devata, like that. But Lord Shiva, whatever was supposed to be given to him was not set aside. When Sati saw this, she became very much disappointed and she got very upset, and then she started arguing with her father that how can you do this? You don't know the exalted position of my husband Lord Shiva. Even though he externally he's having matted hair, wearing smearing ashes on his body, and he's wearing deer skin, doesn't even have a place to stay. All these things externally it might look like Lord Shiva is not very cultured, he's not having a sattvic lifestyle, he's surrounded by ghosts, pretas, bhutas and such other living entities. But fact is, Lord Shiva is so exalted that despite being in such conditions, he does not move away from his spiritually exalted position. Normally, a person who is on a spiritual path is advised to avoid tamasic kind of situations. A spiritualist has to live in a place of sattva guna. He has to take bath every day, he has to keep himself very nice and clean, he has to live in a sattvic place like a temple, not in a crematorium, all those kind of things, so that he can maintain his platform of being in sattva guna in spirituality. Whereas Lord Shiva is so exalted, despite being in the association of ghosts and pretas and all that, Lord Shiva does not fall down from his position. On the other hand, Lord Shiva, being very kind, he sees that there are so many living entities like the ghosts and hobgoblins and all such living entities. Unfortunately, these bhutas, pretas, they all don't have proper residence. Nobody will allow them into their house or give them a place of residence. So Lord Shiva, taking pity upon them, he tells them, you come and stay with me, taking compassion upon them. Sometimes even in this world also we see, for example, few decades back, leprosy was considered an untouchable disease, and anybody got leprosy, the whole society would treat them as outcasts, nobody would even touch them. But Mother Teresa went and approached such people. She took them into her home, treated them and gave them a place to stay and food to eat and all that. So people who are very compassionate, they take people who are considered rejects in the society and give them some shelter. Similarly, Lord Shiva also, considering that these ghosts and other ghostly beings like bhutas, pretas and all such living entities, they have no place of residence, he gives them shelter. Okay, some place you stay, like that. So that is Lord Shiva's position. Lord Shiva is not a person in Tamoguna or something like that. He is such an exalted Vaishnava. In fact, great transcendentalists, rishis, sages, they try to take the blessings of Lord Shiva so that they can advance spiritually. So Sati, she told Daksha Maharaj that you don't know the exalted position of Lord Shiva and unnecessarily you are insulting a person who is worthy of respect. Although materially if we see, Daksha Maharaj was the father-in-law and Lord Shiva was the son-in-law. In a material position, from a material viewpoint if you see, the son-in-law is in a subordinate position to the father-in-law. But in this case, Lord Shiva is so exalted that even amongst the devatas, he is considered the chief of the devatas. That's why he is called Mahadeva. So, by virtue of his spiritual superiority, Lord Shiva is on a higher plane than Daksha Maharaj, and Daksha Maharaj ought to have offered him respects without considering his material relationship. However, Daksha Maharaj did not have that spiritual vision. So Sati became very upset with that, and she said that you are harboring such intense negative feelings to Lord Shiva that I feel ashamed that I am born from your body as your daughter. Therefore, your whole attitude towards my husband is so abominable that I am disgusted with this body that you have given me, and therefore I am giving it up. And she immediately gave up her body right there. So when this news reached Lord Shiva became very angry and upset that Daksha Maharaj had mistreated his own daughter so badly that she gave up her life. And so the hordes of the army of Lord Shiva, comprising all the Bhutas and Pretas, they descended upon the Yajnashala and they destroyed the whole place and cut off the head of Daksha Maharaj. But then, because all this was, all the Yajna, the sacrifice was being conducted for the welfare of the whole universe, therefore all the Devatas, they all approached Lord Shiva, they pacified him, and then Lord Shiva reinstated the fire sacrifice and he brought back Daksha Maharaj also to life. And like this, the matter was settled there, and Daksha Maharaj also realized his folly. He begged the forgiveness from Lord Shiva, and he mended that relationship between him and Lord Shiva. But in the whole incident, Sati had lost her life. Now it is said that after this incident, Lord Shiva carried the body of Sati and he was roaming around in a very grieving situation, giving up his regular duties. So when the Devatas saw that Lord Shiva was neglecting his duties and this was not good for the world and he had to be brought out of his grief-stricken condition, they approached Lord Vishnu. And so Lord Vishnu, he had to break that situation where Lord Shiva was absorbed in holding the body of Sati. So Lord Vishnu sent his Sudarshana Chakra, which cut Sati's body into 51 pieces. And these 51 pieces fell into different places of the earth, and all these became the Shakti Pithas. And later, of course, Sati again took birth as Parvati Devi, and then she again came and married Lord Shiva because she is his eternal consort. Now, one of the parts of Sati's body, which was her eye, fell in a place in the Himalayas in Uttarakhand. And the place where it fell became a beautiful lake. And because her eyes, Sati's eyes fell at that spot, in Hindi, the word for eyes is Naina, and therefore that place became Nainital. And so Nainital, today of course it is a big tourist spot and it is a hill station, but originally Nainital is a great place of pilgrimage because there is a temple of Naina Devi, Parvati Devi's temple is also there, and there is this beautiful lake where her eye is said to have fallen down. This is a very pristine place and a sacred place, and this place which is Nainital and surrounding that Nainital are also considered very holy places because there is something known as Sat Tal next to this Nainital, which is 7 tals or 7 lakes. One of them is Garuda Tal, another is Nala Damayanti Tal, where Nala and Damayanti, when Nala lost all his royal opulence and he became poverty stricken, he and his wife Nala and with his wife Damayanti, they are supposed to come and stay here at this one of the lakes, which is called Nala Damayanti Tal. And then there are 4 more lakes associated with Lord Rama. One lake for Lord Rama, one lake for Lakshmana, one for Sita Devi, one for Hanuman, like that, and one for Bharata. So so this place is a very holy place. All these places are within around 20-25 kilometers of each other. So this is a very holy place. That part of the Uttarakhand is considered a very holy place. Now the Pandavas, what happened was, when they went to Varanavata, because they had been forewarned by Vidura, they took some precautions. They thought, how should we escape this house when it is set on fire? They could make out that this house has been made of shellac, and because Vidura had warned them that Duryodhana's plan was to kill them in a fire and make it appear like a fire accident, they understood, oh, shellac is an inflammable material, so Duryodhana plans to set the whole house on fire. So very intelligently, surreptitiously, the Pandavas built a tunnel under the palace so that they could escape at an appropriate time. Because the Pandavas did not want open confrontation with the Kauravas. There could be multiple reasons. One of the reasons could be that the Pandavas were still too young, and if they were to go into an open confrontation, could be that Dhritarashtra could tell his army to capture the Pandavas and put them into the dungeons, just like Kamsa had imprisoned Devaki and Vasudeva. All these kind of things could be possible. So therefore probably they felt right now is not the right time to openly confront the Kauravas. Let us manage the situation without open confrontation. So the Pandavas dug this tunnel and they were waiting for the opportunity. Finally, on one night when the servants of Duryodhana came and they set the house of shellac on fire, the Pandavas used the tunnel and they escaped. Like we mentioned in one of our previous episodes, the Varanavata is present day Barnava in Haryana. If you go to this place, there is a huge mound of land where they say that this is where the palace stood. Of course, the palace remains are not there because the entire palace burned down. It was made of shellac, so the entire thing burned down. But the tunnel which the Pandavas used to escape is there even today. And that tunnel goes from that place where the house of shellac was said to have stood, and it opens out after a little distance, almost a kilometer or so away, near the banks of the Hindon river. So the Pandavas came out through this, used this tunnel, and they escaped, while all the others thought that the Pandavas have burnt to death in the inferno. The news that the Pandavas have died reached Hastinapur, and the entire Hastinapur clan went into grieving. The Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, all these personalities were grief stricken. Oh, the Pandavas were great, such great virtuous children. The sons of Pandu were the future of the world. They would have made such wonderful emperors. Like this, they were, Yudhishthira was the epitome of righteousness. Bhima was such a powerful warrior. Arjuna was the greatest archer. Like this, the Pandavas were all highly qualified personalities. They could have contributed to the world in wonderful ways. And so their loss was something which the personalities like Bhishma and Dronacharya were, they just could not digest it, that the Pandavas had passed away. Even Gandhari was also very sorrowful that the Pandavas and Kunti Devi had passed away. Dhritarashtra, Karna and Shakuni, Duryodhana, these people, externally they expressed a lot of grief. Although internally they were all very happy that okay, the obstacles in our path are cleared, now Duryodhana can become the emperor. Vidura was another person who externally showed a lot of grief, but then he was not grieving. But then unlike the Duryodhana and his party, Vidura was not sorrowful because he knew that the Pandavas would have escaped. Like this, the news spread that the Pandavas had been killed in the fire which had engulfed the house, but in reality the Pandavas had escaped. And the Pandavas, now what they did, they started going around incognito and disguising themselves as poor Brahmanas. They went from place to place and wandering like this, they came to this place surrounding Sattal. And when they came to this place, they approached a place where in the proximity of these Nainital and Sattal areas, and when they reached there, it is said that the Pandavas were feeling very thirsty. So at that time, Bhima, to quench the thirst of his mother and his brothers, he struck his mace on the ground, he struck his gada on the ground, and from there sprung out another lake. And because this lake was created by Bhima, it came to be known as Bhimatal. And on the banks of the Bhimatal, there is a Bhimeshwar Mahadev temple, where there is a temple of Lord Shiva, which is said to have been, where Lord Shiva is said to have been worshipped by Bhima himself. Now, when the Pandavas were here, what had happened? If we go to Bhimtal even today, which is about 20-22 kilometers from Nainital, it's a wonderful place, very scenic, very beautiful, very pristine waters, very calm and quiet environment. Abutting the lake of Bhimtal, you can see there is a hillock, a very green hillock. In this hillock, unknown to the Pandavas, there was a Rakshasa. This Rakshasas are people who are man-eaters. They live on human flesh. This Rakshasa, his name was Hidimba. And when the Pandavas came here, he smelt them and he thought, okay, I have got good food today. And he attacked them, thinking that he would kill them and eat them up. But then Bhima, all alone, he fought Hidimba, and because Bhima was very powerful, very strong, Rakshasas are also very strong and powerful. But then Bhima, because he was endowed with such immense strength, that he managed to overpower Hidimba and he killed him. Now when he killed Hidimba, the Pandavas were all happy. Oh, see, Bhima has done such a valorous task. He has killed a Rakshasa, which is humanly impossible. Rakshasa, generally, they are too powerful for humans. But then Bhima has managed to do something which is quite a valorous task, quite a heroic task. So they were all very happy. At that time, this Hidimba had a sister by name Hidimbi. And this Hidimbi, when she saw that her brother had been killed, and she saw Bhima was the person who had killed her brother, and she saw the fight between the two, she saw how Bhima is so powerful a warrior, she lost her heart to Bhima. And she approached Bhima and she requested him to marry her. And Bhima said, how can I marry a Rakshasi? Get lost, I am not interested in marrying you. Bhima outright refused. Then Hidimbi approached Kunti Devi and Yudhishthira Maharaj and requested them, as per the codes of Kshatriya rules, if a woman approaches a Kshatriya and requests him to marry her, the Kshatriya cannot refuse. But you look at Bhima, I am asking him to marry me, he is refusing. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj and Kunti Devi, they told Bhima that this is not right of you. You cannot reject her just because she is a Rakshasi. After all, she seems to be quite friendly towards us also. So you should marry her. Based on the orders of his brother, elder brother and his mother, Bhima married Hidimbi. And this place, even today if we go, that forest is known as Hidimba's forest in Bhimtal, abutting Bhimtal. And so they stayed there for some time, and from the wedlock of Bhima and Hidimbi was born a son who was known as Ghatotkacha. Now, in the meantime, the news that the Pandavas had died reached even Panchala Desha. What had happened? Drupada, even though he was defeated by Arjuna, somehow he had developed a great affection for Arjuna, because he saw how Arjuna was such a powerful warrior. In fact, he was so powerful that he had defeated Drupada himself. So he thought, I have a daughter, Draupadi, she is of marriageable age. Who better can become my son-in-law than Arjuna himself? And thinking like this, he had made plans that he should give Draupadi in marriage to Arjuna. And Draupadi had also heard about Arjuna and how he was the best archer in the world, and he was the son of Pandu, and he was a great valorous king. So she had also developed some affection for Arjuna, and she had developed a desire in her heart to marry Arjuna. Therefore, Drupada was thinking, let me send a proposal to the Kaurava household for the marriage of Arjuna with Draupadi. Although Dronacharya and Drupada had a fight, Drupada's enmity was with Dronacharya, not with the Kaurava household. So therefore, he did not see any wrong in sending a marriage proposal there. But before he could send a proposal to Hastinapura, he got the news that the Pandavas had gone to Varanavata, and the house they were living in caught fire, and they have been killed in the inferno. Drupada became very sorrowful. Arjuna was such a good son-in-law, he would have made such a good son-in-law, and my daughter had also desired to marry him, but unfortunately this has happened. Now what to do? But then duty beckons, life goes on. Drupada thought, okay, Arjuna is no more, now what to do? But I want my daughter to be wedded to a highly powerful warrior. So he thought, let me conduct a Swayamvara. A Swayamvara was a ceremony in those days where the Kshatriyas would conduct, in which king had a daughter. He wanted a suitable groom for his daughter. He would conduct a Swayamvara where various kings would come. They would show their prowess in some way, and there would be some contest there, and whoever would win that contest could win the hand of the princess. This used to be one of the ways of how the marriages used to happen, alliances used to be struck. Drupada therefore thought, let me create a Swayamvara, let me conduct a Swayamvara and create a contest in which a suitable groom can be chosen for Draupadi. And he thought, Draupadi is not an ordinary daughter. She is not an ordinary child. She was born from the fire sacrifice. Therefore, the person, her husband also should be a very highly qualified person. He must be one of the foremost warriors. So the contest in which all these princes must compete in to win the hand of Draupadi must be really a tough one, so that only the best of the best warriors gets Draupadi's hand. So thinking, he began to plan to make a Swayamvara. So what was the competition that Drupada thought of, which would be very tough, so that only the best of the best warriors could win the hand of Draupadi? Please join us in our next episode to know about what happened in this Swayamvara of Draupadi. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.